Hello, I'm Jim Paxon. Welcome to another edition of Arizona Wildlife Views. We're on the Colorado River in Marble Canyon. Today we'll take you just downstream to the Little Colorado River, where biologists are working to save some of Arizona's native species. Stay tuned for that and more on Arizona Wildlife Views.
Arizona Wildlife Views is brought to you by the sale of hunting and fishing licenses and the Heritage Fund, lottery dollars working for wildlife. Some projects made possible by the Sport Fish and Wildlife Restoration Fund.
Hello, I'm Jim Paxon. Welcome to another edition of Arizona Wildlife Views. We're on the Colorado River in Marble Canyon, one of the most interesting and beautiful places you could find anywhere.
This is the LCR, the Little Colorado River, and this is where it meets up with its big brother, the mighty Colorado. Here at the confluence, the bright brown waters of the LCR mix with the cool aqua greens of the mainstem Colorado River. This is the start of Grand Canyon and the heart of critical habitat for the endangered humpback chub.
The Little Colorado River is really one of the last strongholds for humpback chub on Earth.
It's a native fish that was placed on the first federal list of endangered species back in 1967. The Arizona Game and Fish Department has been closely monitoring the status of the humpback chub since 1987. Each spring, researchers descend into the canyon and set up camp along the edge of the Little Colorado River. They'll spend about a month here, catching fish and collecting data for the U.S. Geological Survey's Grand Canyon Monitoring and Research Center. The USGS funds the research, Game and Fish does the work.
I tell you what, this is a beautiful location. Grand Canyon's right around the corner. We're in the Little Colorado River area. The water is amazing, the scenery is amazing.
Some days it's more amazing than others. For much of the year, the LCR is a stunning turquoise blue. But on days like today, runoff from snowmelt or storms renders the water this brilliant brown. That's how it's always been, because the LCR is still a wild, natural river, mostly unregulated by man. But that's not the case with the mainstem Colorado River, at least not since the mid-1960s, when Glen Canyon Dam was placed in its path. This 710-foot-tall concrete structure changed the Colorado River environment. The river is now colder than Mother Nature intended, because water released from the dam comes from the depths of Lake Powell.
These native fish that adapted to warm water temperatures now are living in an area, at least in the mainstem Colorado River, where it's much cooler than they're used to. And that can affect their growth, their reproduction, and just the ability for them to live.
Case in point, the humpback chub. Its population began to plummet after Glen Canyon Dam was built. After organizing camp and strapping supplies to their backs, these fish biologists hiked toward the confluence a little over a mile away. During the hike, they stopped to collect nets that have been stashed away since last spring. Most are coated with a heavy crust of travertine from months of use in the mineral-rich river. The ones that are in good shape are used again, while worn-out nets are replaced with new ones. The researchers refer to charts and photographs to make sure each net is placed in the same location as it was the year before.
There you go. And then just swing it out, just like that. by using standardized methods with setting these hoop nets in the same place from year to year, since 1987, we can look at trends in the population.
By the end of the day, they'll set 13 hoop nets in the Little Colorado River, all of them within 1,200 yards of the confluence.
We have the rope for net 3.
They're positioned to take advantage of the spring spawn, when fish leave the main stem Colorado to reproduce in the warmer waters of the LCR.
What we try to do is we set these nets along the shorelines with the opening on the downstream end, so those fish, as they swim upriver, get captured in our gear.
Feel it?
No.
You're stepping
Oh, wait,
on it.
I got it.
In the remaining hours of daylight, the researchers have a few more nets to set. They take special care to make sure each one is sufficiently anchored so it won't collapse in the current. After the final net sinks to the bottom of the LCR, a tired team returns to camp to get rested and ready for another busy day on the river. Shortly after sunrise, Robin takes the daily measurements of water temperature and turbidity, or just how murky it is. It's information that can help researchers better understand how river conditions correlate to the amount of fish they catch.
There can be differences in our catch rates or our ability to capture these fish depending on the clarity of the water.
Turbidity went down. That's good.
After breakfast, it's time to start checking the nets.
I just try to roll it up right here. Oh, we got a humpback.
Sometimes they're full of fish and sometimes they're not, but that element of surprise
Got a couple in there.
is always exciting.
Calm down. There we go. Final sucker. We got a nice big humpback chub here. You can really tell the size of the hump on this.
So far, the nets are producing positive results.
That'll be likely one of our larger nets. We just caught flannelmouth suckers, a bluehead sucker, and humpback chub.
No matter the species, each native fish captured in these nets goes through the same process.
270.
The researchers measure it, check it for
248.
parasites, and make note of its sexual characteristics.
Sex is undetermined, not right.
All of that information is written on log sheets that will become part of an extensive database
yes.
nearly 30 years in the making.
So these are pit tags.
Each fish that's not too small is also injected with a passive integrated transponder if it doesn't have one already.
It's about the size of a grain of rice, and you can kind of see right here its relative size to a penny.
A pit tag is a small microchip containing a unique number that allows researchers to identify the fish the next time it's captured.
003, Bravo Alpha. When we take the data from this fish, we can go back to our fish database and we're able to know the last time it's been caught and then also where it's moved from. Released alive. Monsters!
Net after net, the researchers inventory fish and record their findings.
Wow, this is a big fish. This is one of the biggest, oldest humpback chubs I've ever put my hands on. This fish is probably upwards of 20 to 30 years old.
Humpback chub can live for 30 to 40 years.
So that's pretty exciting to capture a fish of that size, of that age. Doesn't look like there's a tag. We'll place a new one in. And to put a new pit tag in that fish, because next time we'll be able to capture that fish and see if it's grown any and see where it's moved. Live to see another day. We'll get some more information on you next time.
And there's a pretty good chance there will be a next time if this year's catch is any indication of future success.
Bravo Alpha.
During the 2013 survey, which lasted from April 12th to the 5th of May, these nets snared a total of 2,214 fish. 62% of them had been previously captured.
There's another humpback chub.
Looking at the numbers for humpback chub alone, 769 humpback chub were caught and 38% of them were recaptures.
So this is a juvenile humpback chub. The more of these that we see each year, in general, the better the population will be in the future.
This population of humpback chub that lives in and around the confluence was in pretty sad shape not too long ago.
People were getting really scared in the late 90s, early 2000s, and the population seemed to be bottoming out.
But the population started to rebound as the Colorado River was getting warmer, the result of a declining water level in Lake Powell that reached a record low in 2005. As of 2013, the humpback chub population remains on the rise.
I'm very optimistic. We've seen a substantial increase in the population since the middle of the 2000s.
Of course, there's no guarantee that will continue. But by checking these nets every 24 hours for about a month each spring, these researchers are giving wildlife managers the data they need to react to changing trends before it's too late.
If we see that the population is in severe decline, then we may need to take management actions to find ways to increase the population overall.
Scientists believe the humpback chub has lived in the waters that carve these canyons for millions of years. And with any luck, this long-term research project will help it survive for many years to come. It's kind of like an insurance policy on the future of a fish.
Can't ask for a better day of fishing.
705, you still have eyes on the rest of that herd?
At 10-4.
Sweet.
705, 151. Yeah, 151. We're on site over the dam, and we'll, do you have a location on these? Anybody got an eyeball on the one side of the dam here?
With military-like precision, the Wildlife Contracts Branch of the Arizona Game and Fish Department spent several days in November of 2012 locating, capturing, collaring, and releasing desert bighorn sheep that live along the Highway 93 corridor.
Back in the 1990s, Arizona Game and Fish Department began working with ADOT and Federal Highways Administration and various partners to evaluate how to deal with the sheep vehicle collisions and sheep permeability. In 2004, research began to really look at how the sheep are moving along the highway.
That research, combined with the Arizona Department of Transportation's plan to widen this portion of Highway 93, resulted in the first ever overpasses built specifically for wildlife in Arizona.
The Black Mountain sheep herd is one of the largest herds in the Southwest, and it's important to Arizona both for recreation, transplants, and just keeping the herd healthy as a whole. And so keeping this population connected across Highway 93 was very important.
The 3 overpasses opened in 2011, and motion sensor cameras soon began capturing video of sheep safely making their way over the highway. Now, a year later, the Wildlife Contracts Branch is back for a post-construction evaluation to see how much the animals are using the overpasses or if they're finding alternative ways to cross the highway.
There's 3 ways that we're evaluating this project. We're looking at wildlife movements with GPS collars, we're looking at use of the overpasses with cameras, and we're looking at the wildlife vehicle collision rates. So far, what we've seen with the cameras has been very successful. We've seen over 1,000 bighorn sheep cross at the 3 overpasses that have been built, and that's a big advantage with these overpasses versus the underpasses. Over on State Route 68, we only saw around 32 animals cross State Route 68 using the underpasses, and that allowed us to give the data behind selecting overpasses instead of underpasses. So they've been very successful so far. And as far as the wildlife vehicle collision rate, we've seen it drop quite a bit from before the construction began.
For this evaluation, they plan to fit 38 sheep with GPS collars. The collaring process begins when spotters locate a sheep herd and then contact the base station.
10-4, we'll try and get some eyes on them from here.
Coordinators from the base station then send up a fixed-wing plane to keep an eye on the herd
Just off my right wing tip.
until the helicopter arrives and the net gunner can single out a specific sheep that he wants to capture.
You know, we're pretty comfortable. The net gunners we have are pretty experienced. We're pretty comfortable with hanging out of the helicopter. We have our harness on here that is tethered to the inside of the ship. We would be wearing the seat belt as well. So when you're hanging out, you're actually up against the tension of the harness, and so you're held in there pretty good. And when the ship is moving around, following the animals, you really are part of the ship at that point, bracing with your feet on the skids and the tether inside the helicopter. And so it wouldn't be something that if you're afraid of heights you'd want to do, but actually you feel pretty safe and comfortable inside the helicopter.
Once the sheep is secured in the net, the helicopter lands and the crew is able to attach the GPS collar. They also take blood samples and check out the sheep's general health and then let it go.
What we do for Wildlife Contracts Branch is various highway projects where we look at wildlife movements across the road. In the case of Highway 93, we were able to actually see it all the way through the process, where we've identified where structures should go with wildlife movement studies. Those projects have been built and now we're evaluating them. We also have been doing this in other parts of the states, including along State Route 260, State Route 64, US Highway 89, Interstate 17, Interstate 40, and various other highways to where we feel we can make a difference for wildlife getting safely across the road.
The Arizona Game and Fish Department's Wildlife Contracts Branch is a new and innovative model of wildlife conservation, offering unique services to help conserve, restore, and manage Arizona's natural resources.
Bald eagles are back from the brink of extinction thanks to decades of conservation efforts that helped them rebound from fewer than 500 breeding pairs nationwide in 1963 to almost 10,000 as of 2006. Because of that success, bald eagles were removed from the federal list of endangered species in 2007. They're no longer listed, but they're still protected by a variety of state and federal laws. In Arizona, the Game and Fish Department continues to carefully manage a relatively small but growing bald eagle population.
It's biggest it's ever been. We've got 68 breeding areas in the state as of this year, 3 new ones this year.
To make sure that trend continues, Game and Fish protects bald eagle nesting sites from public disturbance, conducts a variety of research, and constantly monitors the status of the species. Today, game and fish biologists are at Lake Mary, south of Flagstaff. They're leading a group of guests and volunteers to a bald eagle nest that's situated near the top of a towering ponderosa pine.
It's one of our high elevation nest sites. We don't have very many of those in the state. Traditionally, most of our breeding birds were down in the desert environments, in the lower salt and lower Verde rivers.
Bald eagles mate for life, and breeding pairs often use the same nest year after year. But this nest is new. It was recently discovered during a regular helicopter survey of breeding areas.
So today we're out here to climb a nest, band the nestling, give it a little health checkup, and get it back into the nest. This is a brand new nest tree for this pair, a new nest for us to climb. So it's always a new challenge getting into a new nest.
Looks like a fun one.
Kurt License is up to the challenge. He's an experienced climber, but this will be his first climb to an eagle's nest. It's illegal to disturb bald eagles, and violators face steep penalties. Eagles are sensitive to human activity, especially during breeding season, when a disturbance may cause them to abandon their nest.
We've specifically timed these bandings for a time of the nesting cycle where the nestlings are big enough that they can handle a couple hours of disturbance, yet they're small enough that they aren't thinking of jumping out of the nest. We usually find 1 to 2 nestlings. On a rare occasion, you'll end up with 3.
This nest contains 1 nestling, and as Kurt gets closer, its parents let him know that they aren't very happy.
Mom and Dad, they're flying around, yelling at us a bit, but once we get everyone out of here, they'll come back to the nest within a couple hours and commence the nesting attempt like nothing happened. Well, when we get up to the nest, we're basically just trying to get a hold of the nestlings and get a hood on them so that they'll calm down and relax for the rest of the banding process.
The bird's secured, but there's some monofilament around the legs, so I'm going to cut that off real quick.
The other thing we're doing while we're in the nest is looking for fishing line, hooks, any other foreign material that might be there, any eggs that didn't hatch, so we can get those tested and try to figure out why they didn't hatch.
Kurt places the nestling into a padded bag and carefully lowers it to the ground.
The nestling today looked like a very healthy 4.5-week-old nestling. It was a male, and lots of meat on its bones and pretty feisty for a 4.5-week-old.
Some lucky volunteers get to hold the nestling while biologists do their work.
12.5.
By placing ID bracelets on the young eagle, researchers will be able to track it over time.
We're able to get a lifetime of information on these birds. We're able to figure out how long they live, how far they go to breed after they leave the nest, able to identify a whole wide variety of parameters on this population to give us an idea of how well it's doing.
2.7.
In the end, it was a real good thing that we were here. Not only did we get the bands that we used to identify this bird later in life, we were able to identify that it was tied up and entangled in monofilament. So we were able to take that fishing line and unwrap it from the bird. So now he'll be able to develop normally and not have that be an issue as it remains in the nest.
Good.
Luckily, over the years, we've only had 2 nestlings actually die from fishing line, but there's been several dozen that we've intervened and removed those threats.
After taking care of business and posing for a few photos, it's time to get this bird back to his nest.
This work is probably, in my mind, one of the best jobs on the planet.
He likes to walk.
You'll see birds that you rescued that come back and are making young of their own, that they wouldn't have had that opportunity if it wasn't for us being there to help them along when they got into trouble.
It's all yours.
That's what it's all about. Keeping bald eagles out of trouble so their success story continues for generations to come. Fishing with her family at Show Low Lake, 6-year-old Riley Karpowitz-White recalls the first fish she ever caught. This is her fish story.
I caught it as 5-year-old. It was a bluegill. It was about this long. Well, and then I kind of had to play tug-of-war with it. I got him.
You got him?
When we were doing the tug-of-war, I got it because it was kind of small. I know, because they're the smartest fish, I think. They're probably the ones that maybe can communicate to the others, because they all speak fish language, which I don't know. So then that one could have been the smartest and could have won the fish race, because how smart it was. And then once I caught it, I was like, I caught a fish, and I caught it as a loon. I use this fishing pole. It's a smaller kind for kids. Instead of putting the finger on and letting go, you just press this. It works not for these types of biggest fish, no. But it works for smaller ones like bluegills and trouts, rainbow trouts. But there's this one big fish my mom was trying to get with this, and it just ate that worm.
Keep fighting him. What, you caught a green worm? How did you catch a green worm?
Guys, I caught a worm.
Pull it up. Reel it in a little more. You're using power bait and you got a green worm. How did you do that?
What is that? Yeah. It's a green worm. Not what you expected.
All right. Here, I'm taking them off. Where are you going?
No. I'm not touching it.
Look, there's your hook.
Okay, instead of us catching a fish, we caught a green worm.
Well, you did good. You caught something.
I thought I was catching a fish.
You ready to try again?
Yeah.
All right, here you go.
Awfully weird.
Well, that's our show for today. If you'd like more information on any of the stories that we brought you, check out our website. For all the good folks at Arizona Game and Fish, I'm Jim Paxon. We'll see you next time.